Hey everyone, it's Angus here. I wanted to make a video to show you how once you've got a long list of stocks that you've done all your research on, but you're not quite sure which ones to trade or which ones to put buy orders in for, what you can do is you can highlight your list. There's a little bit of a trick to this. I'm looking at stocks that are on the US exchange. If you're doing this for Australian stocks or London stocks or Hong Kong stocks, you might need to add the extension in. So, if it's the ASX, you might need to add .asx or, column ASX. Or, if you're London exchange, you might need to add LSE or, .hk for Hong Kong. TradingView will automatically assume that it's a US stock when you do this import if you don't have the extension on it. But what I'd do is I'd create a list like this. I'd then go to something like a Notepad, and I'll go Notepad. There we go. And I'll go OK. And I'll paste my list into Notepad. I'll go File, Save As, and let's call it, November 11, that's today's date. And I'll go Save. And so you can see that's just created a, very simple text file. I'll close that and I'll go to TradingView. I'll go to the little watch list tab over here on the right. This is just the home page, nothing special. I'm going to go to the drop down here. I'm going to go Import List, and I'm going to find that text file called November. I'm going to open it, and you can see it's automatically imported all of these stocks. So these are currently stocks that are making fairly nice higher highs, and I'll go through them and let's have a quick look at them. So let's hide some of this stuff here for now just to remove the distraction, and let's make it sure it's a 1 year and it's on the daily candles. And so you can see that's not too bad, sort of fairly nice. What I might do is I might add in a moving average. So what have I got down there? I've got a moving average, ADX. Let's go indicators. What am I doing wrong? Here we go. Let's go moving average. Let's go simple moving average, and let's say make it a 50-day, just something that's sort of a medium time frame. Click on the settings, change it to 50. I'm going to make it green for good. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I'm pretty simplistic. So green for good, and I'm going to go OK. And you don't have to have the moving average here. Some people say they just look at the line and they can tell you what's happening, but I just like to, put in a moving average just so I can see what the overall trend is. Otherwise I could make this a line chart. And so I could make this something like a line chart, and you can sort of see there. But the idea is if you can sort of see the overall trend of a moving average, it just sort of helps take away some of the noise to some extent. So what do I think of this stock? Well, I think it's good. It's ticking away, it's moving up. It's obviously had a pullback on earnings by the look of that. So, earnings must have been fairly disappointing. It does have a bit of a record of going up on earnings. Pulls back on earnings there. It did go quite well there. So a bit of a mixed bag. But, you can see here it looks like it might be heading back up. And so, that could be an interesting stock. And so if I was to bring in some other indicators to have a better look at it, I like to use the RSI and I like to use the MACD. And what I like to do is there is some statistics that sort of say that if the MACD is crossing over below the middle line, that's a fairly strong bullish type signal. You can see here the RSI is starting to head back up. And so, if I looked at a stock like this, I'd say if I'm trying to get the odds in my favour, then it would seem like there's a fairly good chance that now this has passed back above that moving average, and the indicators here are in alignment, then there might be a good chance this stock might be regaining some momentum. If I open up my list here, and so you can see I've got HIG here, and I can have a look at GE, I can have a look at BK, I can have a look at JXN, I can have a look at IRM, and you can see, the Trump pumps in, good effect. A lot of these stocks have, sort of fallen down a bit, but, to some extent you can say that's just, means that they're back at a, you know, probably at a better value area than what they were previously. And so, you know, it's flattening them out a bit. But you can see that some of these have had a, you know, fairly good run for a while. So, you know, what I'm trying to do with my approach to trading is to say, I like stocks that have been having a nice steady run up. They've had a bit of a pullback, and they might be starting to head back up again. And, you know, I kind of use these indicators here just to, you know, check to see, you know, if these also agree. But I can do something a little bit cleverer. You know, this is the point of this video. So rather than sort of sitting here and going through these and, you know, taking a guess as to what's going to happen next, the beautiful thing about TradingView is I can open up the extended market hours. I can click on extended hours. I can tick that box, and you can see sometimes down here, I'll say pre-market no trades, and it just depends on how big the stock is. So HIG doesn't have any pre-market trades, but if I look at GE, which is a, you know, much more popular stock, I can see that in the pre-market it's up 0.76%, so it's up 1.4. And the main thing I want to do when I take a trade is I want to obviously pick trades where the momentum's in my direction. You know, I don't want to enter a trade that's, you know, on the way down. I want to enter a stock when it's, you know, starting to go up. So, you know, if I had a better look at GE, I'd say, well, look, you know, this is crossing over down here. That looks like it's heading back up. You know, it looks like there's a good chance of it going up here. I can see in the pre-market, I don't know if you can see that, but see that little orange line there? That's showing that in the pre-market, you know, it's already up from where it is. And so if I was looking at a stock like this, I might say, you know, I'd take a punt and, you know, maybe buy it at that around 183 level. So I'm hoping that it sort of opens up there, maybe drops back a bit, you know, when there's a bit of, you know, movement during the day, and then it might keep going up. But so an easy way to do this is just to sort by, you know, this extended market hour. So if I have a look at rail, so let's zoom back out a bit. Let's go to my 1 year. And so he looks, you know, a bit too steep for me. So I look at that and I think that's not that nice steady left to right that I like. You know, it's probably quite bullish at the moment. I do like that it's below $100. You know, I like my, you know, stocks that you know, somewhere between $20 and $50. I've just got that funny idea that I've shared before in other videos where I always think a $20 stock, it's much easier to get to $40 than it is for a, you know, $500 stock to get to, you know, $1,000. You know, whether that's right or wrong, it doesn't really matter, but it's just a sort of a bit of belief that I have. And it's a sort of thing where I think that, you know, the average mum and dad, you know, trader much prefers to, you know, be able to buy these less expensive stocks and buy more of them than they, you know, buy a whole heap. So anyway, that rail, like, it looks kind of interesting. So what I might do is I might take a little flag. So see, I've got my little green flag there. So I'm going to say, here's one that I want to watch. Let's have a quick look at BCS. So again, same deal. You know, it's had a pretty good run over the last year. You can see that it's already gapped up in the, you know, pre-market. It's up, you know, 2.75% in the pre-market. Teva, I don't even know what these are. So something like this, I kind of like to look at because, you know, it's someone's been prepared to pay, you know, $19 for it, and here it is back at, you know, $17.30, you know, when it closed the other day, and it's back up to $17.55. So I look at that and I think, you know, someone's been prepared to pay that, you know, $18 mark for whatever reason, that $19 mark. And so for me, I look at that and I think there's probably a little bit of upside for me. So if I look at that, you know, that's 12%. Even if I buy it at the current pre-market price and I don't, you know, think that it might wiggle back a bit, you know, that's still 10%, you know, if it gets back to those levels. You know, it seems like that's a pretty good support area, and it seems like that's a fairly, you know, good resistance area. And so in my thinking, if the market remains bullish, then there's a good chance that I might, you know, get a quick little win out of that. The indicators are saying it's back down, you know, at a fairly low level on the RSI. And with the way the RSI works is I just look at, you know, I look across the bottom and I say, well, whenever it hits this sort of area here, that's where it tends to turn around. It hasn't got to that area yet. And, you know, again, the Trump pump might make that it, you know, means that it sort of continues to head back up. Earnings was obviously a bit disappointing. I wonder if I can see any news. So if I scroll down here, so you can see, you know, earnings isn't too bad. You know, their revenue looks like it's up. You know, profitability is not great, but, you know, they're heading the right way. They seem to be improving. If I scroll down a bit further, I can see that the 1 year price target is $23. So, you know, based on all the, analysts and, their analysis of the fundamentals, they sort of indicating the price should be around $23. And so if it went to $23, not saying it will, but that's a 30% return. That's not bad. If it does get to, around about that level, that's not a bad return on your investment. So I don't want to keep going through all of these, and please make sure that you don't think that these are the stocks that are worth buying. Often what will happen is the ones that are up in the extended hours might change direction for whatever reason, but it's just one of those things where, again, it's just something that I'm hoping I'm putting the odds in my favour a little bit more, and I can just sort of again, I'd hate to sort of get involved in one like that. It's too big a gap for me. That dividends jump is just, I always feel that gap might get filled, so it's not one that I'd want to chase. I'm really, really looking for those nice and steady left to right, something like this, sub $50. Don't even know what they do, don't have to know what they do. Earnings, it's hasn't had much impact, after earnings. You can see that, the RSI can get quite high. It's down here at the moment, so, I'd say there's a little bit of room to the upside, $9.98. If I scroll down, and again, you can't pay too much attention to this, but, $11.19, so there's 12% in theory. K&F, a bit gappy. SE, let me go back to my 1 year just to make sure I'm looking at all the right stuff. And it's above its moving average. It's pulled back a bit. Looks like it's a fairly good resistance type area or support area. Don't know what they do. $100, under $100 share. GE we talked about earlier. GE's massive company, so you think that'd have to be a fairly reasonable, safe bet to some extent, just depending on how long you want to hold. Forecast $210 high, 14% in it. So this is just a quick and dirty way of being able to import a list and having a look using the pre-market hours, what you might start to, think about buying. T-Tech, again, don't know what they do, but someone's been prepared to pay this $51 mark. $51 mark was there, so it's not, not unreasonable. And so they're suggesting that there's a 10%, gain to that area. So let's pretend we start off here. That's that 10% that they're talking about in that figure. TSM, IRM. So again, this is something that I, would probably be a little bit interested in, just because, again, it's been going up nice and steady. It's had a pullback on earnings, and for whatever reason, that's just, to me, it's often just a pullback to a value area, where the analysts have, done their numbers, and it's probably not worth what they were thinking it was worth. And now that it's back to this sort of area here, hopefully that run will continue. I do like the ones that have had a bit of a pullback, 122, so not as big a gain as the others. Right, so those are the ones where it's sort of reported that there might be a positive move to them, certainly in the pre-market, and then you can start to scroll down here and you can see that some of these are suggesting that they're going to go perhaps backwards on the open. Some of them might continue their run to the downside, but then there's all these ones here where they might not have started trading yet. So TPG, it's past earnings, which is always a sort of a safer sign. You don't want to buy a stock just before earnings, because you just don't know what happens. Sometimes it's good news and the stock goes backwards, and sometimes it's bad news and the stock goes forward. Like, it's this crazy thing where often a stock will declare bankruptcy and all of a sudden it takes off and rockets. So, you just never know. This one here, if I said from here roughly to somewhere up there, it's about 11%. It's not significant, but, it's a $10 stock. And so what I'll do is I'll just sort of keep an eye on this, and I'll keep sort of sorting it every now and again, and just as stocks, I guess, get bought in the pre-market or sold in the pre-market, then I can come through and flag them, and I can either say, well, right, I'm happy to buy rail, I'm happy to take a punt on it, and so I'll put in a pre-market order, and so you typically use a limit order to buy it at a price that you want to buy it at. I think I use interactive brokers, and I've been using them mid-price more and more. And what it's just an algorithm that they use to try and give you advantageous trades. And what I'll do is I'll put, using the mid price, I'll put the top price that I'm prepared to pay for it at this pre-market value, and so it'll buy it somewhere between, where it opens at and that, pre-market value at the top. And so I don't want to sort of, put a market order in and all of a sudden I'm buying at the top of the daily candle, and by the time I close out, the stock might have pulled back a bit. So I do like to try and buy around where the stock closed the previous day, because I always think there's an overlap. Just about on every candle, there is an overlap. Sometimes you might miss out, but if I was to buy this one, I'd probably say, well, it's up to 15.95 in the pre-market, but I've got no doubt that it'll pull back during the day, and I can probably get it for around that $15.20 to $15.50 type mark. Somewhere in between there would be a better value area for me, and so hopefully it'll go up, it'll wiggle back, I'd buy it, and then it might continue to keep going up. So anyway, I spoke fairly quickly. If there's anything you don't understand, leave a comment in the questions below, but I just thought this is a really nice and easy way to import some stocks, see what's happening to them in the pre-market, and it whittles down your 99 stocks very quickly to maybe 5 or 6 that you want to have a better look at and might trade those. So thank you very much for listening, and any questions, let me know in the comments below.